All right. Welcome, everybody. Chat, before we start, I'm using a new audio interface, and I have never used this before. So please let me know if the audio cuts out or if it's not good, so I can attempt to try and fix it on the fly. Yeah. All right. Welcome to episode 4 of Honorbound. I have some very, very special guests with me. I have Verbaolsity, a returning member, or a returning guest. Hopefully his computer will cooperate this time. Last time he was a disappearing
This edition
act.
having hopefully 100% less crashing than it did before.
Yes, for sure. And then we have Macgeiler as well. Or is it Macgeiler? Macgeiler?
Macgeiler.
Oh,
exactly.
God, no. Let's...
Okay. All right.
Are we going to touch on that subject as well?
Should we? Should we?
No,
Is
we
this a
shouldn't.
subject we should?
No.
And then
Let's leave it
Daddylaw,
at that.
of course, also joining us. Thank you so much for taking time out of your guys' schedule. I know you guys stream around this time, certain times, so I appreciate you guys being here. So this is Honorbound again. This is a podcast that's centered around the competitive community, and the goal of the podcast is to give insight to people maybe in the competitive community or in the casual community about this game from a competitive mindset, and that includes like from tournaments to changes in the game to anything else that we could see in game. And today we have 3 topics that we're going to cover. We're going to cover the recent Steel tournaments, the testing grounds, and the changes for the characters in the testing grounds like Centurion, Gladiator, Warlord, and stuff like that. So to get started, let's jump into the Steel tournaments. Verb, I'll start with you because you've been a part of most of them casting. How was casting these tournaments with spectator mode?
In spectator mode right now, apart from needing 1 or 2 core features, feels incredible. Mainly because we actually can do 4v4 tournaments, and that's the best way to consume For Honor. 2v2, kind of Stockholm Syndrome me into liking it, but now that I've actually done 4v4, 2v2 is ass at a competitive level. It is not great. So, and especially to commentate, like how many times can I use a synonym for the phrase "they get a bash into heavy"? Like, there's not that many I can use before it starts sounding a bit
It's true.
So, being able to get into a more free-form format of 4v4, and then eventually, hopefully, once it actually works with the mode and the rules get ironed out, Breach, ideally, is going to be like really good. So overall, like initial impressions, yes, we finally got Spectator. It works in the wild. It needs a couple features, but like as a base thing, great, love it.
Cool. What kind of features are you hoping for them to add?
2 things primarily. We have told the devs before in like giving them feedback, but in terms of things I want to see, honestly, 2 things. 1, the ability to do a party system to where you party up and then you can queue in together and see the same match at the same time, and you could time synchronize.
Yeah.
Basically, right now, the way the production has been for all of these tournaments that you've seen has been the camera guy, the guy doing the stream, basically, not only has to run the stream, but also has to do a Discord screen share of his screen in some manner simultaneously.
Oh, yikes. Yeah.
For the commentators to watch off of to get minimal delay. Now, that's got problems like, for instance, on the EU PC tournament, I was supposed to be doing production because I wanted to give it a go. I've got like 4+ years of observing experience and I'm used to doing that kind of thing, so I wanted to give it a try. But my internet can't support a good quality stream, and the upload rather can't support the stream and also the screen share at the same time. So it ends up being very lackluster. We have to swap back to the Raven, who did it for the NA one and for the EU one as well. So being able to bypass that need entirely just by having everyone in the same game would be nice. Second thing would to help make the camera features a lot smoother is the ability to, while you're in the free ghost cam, just like dithering about, be able to point to someone and then jump to their POV without having to press a hotkey. Right now, you can use numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 on your keyboard to jump quickly, or you can use, if you look on the top and see an eye icon jumping back and forth on the top row, you can use bumpers to do it, and then press A to confirm. However, if like you're on Citadel Gate, some poor bastard just got wiped out on like C point, you look towards A point on defender's side, and it's like, I can barely make out 2 silhouettes, not exactly sure who that is. Like, ideally, you can just point them, press a button, and go, vroom, and go straight to them, and be able to actually look from their perspective.
Yeah.
There is a method of doing that right now, where if 2 people are locked onto each other, you can press a button, B on controller, F on keyboard, and jump to the other person's perspective as they're locked on. to their POVs, but all we need is the ability to do that, but from free cam, and it would make things way easier. Because right now you kind of get those like trolleying along through the mid lane, flying through to the next team fight thing, which looks pretty, but at the same time, unless you know people's silhouettes and can do like, all right, I know, like for instance in the tournaments, like if Daddylaw was playing Lawbringer, I know his silhouette to an extent on the Oathbound. I think he's on like key 6, press key 6. He's over there. Nope, that was Macgeiler instead. Whoops. So it's like you got to worry about that. So hopefully with a bit more cleaning up, Spectator can be way nicer. But yeah, that's the only things I'd want immediately.
Okay. Yeah. Crack brought something up that I actually think is a great idea from last podcast. And he said something about a heat map, which basically shows like where people went at what times, like who went mid, who went to back cap, who went to 1v1 at a point, stuff like that, as a means of, for the casters to kind of get like cumulative information of how a team plays, and then for the teams that are participating, you can use it as a tool for like a VOD review. Like, see, okay, this we did this at this time, and this is something that we did poorly or we did well, and then you can look at what the enemy team did and do the same thing, and you can kind of it gives depth to critiquing your own play and improving as a team, because you can then look at what your opponents did and try to adjust accordingly. So I think I think
in addition to that, maybe also a way to tell how many of your points towards the end of the game were generated how.
Yeah.
Like how many of them you got by killing minions at mid, how many did you get by boosting a zone, how many did you get by just holding a zone without boosting it, just so you know maybe what you did too little or too much of towards the end as well. I think that would also be an interesting statistic.
Yeah.
I think a pretty good thing to add in for the caster side of it, if you look at CSGO as an example, they have that blown up version of the minimap. Something brings it up on screen.
The radar map, yeah.
The key areas, your mid, you got your A, B, C. That would be brilliant for casters. That would be amazing for casters. Like, as you can see, you know, everybody's focusing over here, yet both points are wide open ways, nobody rotating. That would be great for casting purposes if they were to add that in. I think it would be great.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so then Macgeiler, I want to talk to you. How was playing in this tournament? Have you played in a tournament before? I want to ask that before. So this is your first tournament?
That was my tourney virginity, yeah.
Nice. Okay. So as your first tournament, we'll start there. How was playing in it?
Actually playing in it was very fun. Like just playing with the guys, you know, with Pierce, Silva, and Ratan. Mm-hmm. And for the first time, actually going a bit on the sweaty side, being on comms, you know, playing your character the way they're supposed to be played, supposedly, in 4v4. And it was kind of a breeze at first as well in the earlier brackets and stuff, and everything was going smoothly. So yeah, the actual playing part, the actual competing part, I really enjoyed, and I can definitely see myself do that more. It's also a great way to improve as a player. Mm-hmm. Just the waiting and the uncertainty sometimes got a little annoying, I guess. Yeah. Especially because, like I said, the early games were a breeze. Like, we just played, and then the next opponent was ready, and we played and played and played. And then later on into the tourney, it just... There's so much going on that you don't know about and that you have to wait for. It kind of gets... I don't want to say frustrating, that's maybe too strong of a term, but... Yeah. It makes you less excited towards the end, I guess you can say.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Definitely.
Okay. Daddylaw, same question. Was this your first tournament as well?
First tournament, yeah, like in any sort of gaming thing. First tournament I've ever taken part in. And to be honest, it's like all those games that I had with Max, Silver, and they were some of the most fun games that I've played in For Honor in quite a long time. You know, getting in there, having the voice comms, rotating properly, communicating, ganks actually working, and not having some random come in being like, let me GB or some shit.
Right.
Like, it's actually good to have an actual flow to your team, which is brilliant. And like Max says, it's a great way to learn and actually get better at the game. Mm-hmm. You know, learn how things are actually supposed to function. Taking part in the tournament overall, fun, good experience. The front end was nice. A couple things at the back end could have been done better.
Yeah.
You know, things could have been more concise. Decisions could have been more straightforward. Certain things could have been prevented. But all in all, good. But small things to be improved on next time it happens. If I ever do take part in another tournament, for sure.
Okay, yeah, and that's actually something I was going to ask is, do either of you have the desire to maybe play in more tournaments after experiencing this one?
Oh,
absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. 100%.
Cool. And that's good to see, because I know like the purpose of Spectator and everything is to try and get more and more people in the competitive scene. And I mean, Daddylaw, you're easily one of the top streamers on the For Honor category, and Macgeiler, you're a partnered streamer, if I remember correctly, on in For Honor as well. And getting more of these people who are obviously well known into the competitive scene can then inspire other people. It's like, hey, my favorite streamer is in this tournament, or they're playing here. Like, maybe I'll try. You know, so it's good to see the Spectators actually doing that kind of work. Verb, we'll go back to you. I wanted to ask, as somebody who is a part of most of them, what exactly did you think went well from your end on the casting side?
Being able to, at least concisely for new players, give them the TLDR of what is going on in certain situations. Like, analytical wise, things got way better once Learn came on, because I'll be honest, my analysis is trash. It's been for years. But being able to explain things for the newer players is something I've always prided on. So being able to, while also all the hype stuff is going on, explain for people who aren't familiar with, like, hey, this is how a Shaolin gank works, or this is how the Lawbringer gank works. This is why you don't try and block an assassin directly in a 2v1, but you block them externally. Like, the simple concepts that build towards good 4v4 play, once those start getting down and be able to explain those, we did quite well. Then you can start leaning onto the more advanced stuff that Learn was talking about during the EU PS4 tournament. So I think that's one thing I'm quite proud of. Like, there's lots of small little hitches and whatnot I'm not too pleased with, but overall, I'm happy that we were able to at least give it a show Spectator itself in a good light. And apart from some of the problems with the audio that the team know about, that's getting fixed, I think, like next month or something. But overall, being able to show, hey, this is 4v4 For Honor. It's not trash, guys, like 2v2. Yeah. I show you, like, come watch, please.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, if I may, real quick, like, the whole discussion competitive against casual has also been like plaguing For Honor ever since I started streaming it, and I'm kind of moving away from well, not away, but I obviously started out way more casual. Now I'm trying to dip my feet into the more competitive scene, and I'm kind of trying to tell that my stream as well, because especially I feel like YouTube maybe more so than Twitch, but especially Twitch. It has a lot of casual players, and everyone who plays at a competitive level is a sweaty tryhard and a turtle and blah blah. And I kind of want to maybe make people see that that's not the case, and it can be fun to actually play the game at a high level that you're playing. And there's nothing bad about trying to get better at it. There's nothing bad about knowing how to gank or to farm minions at mid instead of leaving it right away when you cap it or stuff like that. And hopefully, like, especially now with the tourney scene picking up and like streamers like Piers and I joining, that can also be shown in a more compelling way.
Yeah, for sure. And it's that kind of harkens back to the whole the stigma of like the competitive scene and how they have to play is not fun to play against, and but it's nice to see that people are starting to get into it and just showing that, hey, while this can be boring to play in like a 1v1 scenario, in 4v4 is how to play optimally is actually fun. You can actually improve by watching these things. Daddylaw, I kind of wanted to talk with you because you're known for, you have mini clips of playing against people who just turtle up against you, and it's annoying to play against when you're on stream. Like, you're trying to entertain the 200 plus people that watch you. And it's kind of hard to do that when you're just fighting a conqueror who just shield bashes. So was that the experience that you get in MM and playing with these optimal gamers? Was it the same as playing in a tournament?
No, very, very different. You see, I look at it as if it's two different environments.
Yeah.
You know, in the tournament, I'm expecting to go against that kind of stuff. I'm going to play like myself. I'm with other, top tier gamers who would be in comms with. Communications. I'm expecting it. It's tournament. I know I'm going to be going against teams who actually know how to play properly. Rotations are going to be used. Proper ganks are going to be there. Present. It is what it is. In public MM, for me, I'm just a salty gamer. I want to press buttons and just shape.
Yeah.
Fuck around, do forwards and crap. So I get irritated whenever I'm against, like I said, a conqueror that only bashes. Yeah, I actually dodge on the orange. I don't shit. But bar that, yeah. In a tournament scenario or scene or scrim scene, I'm cool with it. It's fine. But going against like proper competitive stacks or top level play in public game, whenever you're playing with viewers and stuff, people who just want to jump in and fly, like, yo, you got a spot ready there? I'll jump in. I'm only bet 50 though. And I've been away from the game for a year or whatnot. And whenever they pop into the game, you're playing with them. You know, you haven't really got synergy compared to a full stack that you're actually playing with.
Yeah.
So experience that in public game, and that's where a lot of the frustration sort of comes from. Not just from how the opponent's playing, but also the fact that, sure, Mac, I know you feel the same way about this here, but your team not actually doing what they do. They don't rotate off of a point. They'll cap a point and run away. They'll clear mid and instantly leave it rather than actually continue to clear and let your mid build up so you can hold that mid point continuously and have time to back cap. A bunch of things come into it, but yeah, I'm mainly just a salty ass gamer. Really salty.
Well, but you bring up a really good point, though, is that like the difference between MM and competitive, like even though these people might be trying to play the same, the environment is absolutely very, very different. I mean, when you're streaming MM or you're playing MM, you're not necessarily playing to improve at the game. I mean, you can do that, but MM isn't necessarily the best place to do that, just because, you know, the type of teammates that you get, you know, you're almost undoubtedly never going to be able to be coordinated enough to practice proper ganks or something like that. So yeah, the environment is definitely different. All right, and I wanted to take a quick second. I apologize for the stream lagging so much. I'm actually not sure why it's lagging. I literally have nothing else going, so I'm trying to work in the background to make it better. Let me know if Daddylaw's mic is still crackling, because it kind of is crackling for us.
If I'm crackling,
yeah, it seems like Discord is having one of its good old-fashioned poop fests, so it looks like that.
Classic.
Yeah, it's not on the stream end, it's Discord's end, at least when it comes to the crackling thing. Don't worry.
Okay.
But yeah, the lag thing, I don't know.
Yeah, the lag thing, I'm not...
You guys know, am I crackly still, or?
No,
you're good now, I think.
Yeah, you sound fine right now. Yeah. Okay, so then continuing on this vein with the Steel tournament, Mac, I'll go to you. Macgeiler, I'll go to you. We talked about what they did, what they did well. Was there anything else you wanted to add to what you felt like the tournament did well?
The tournament did well. Well, I think for the first time we had, well, no, not the first time, but since a long time we had a tournament that was also kind of officially promoted by UE themselves. And then you have like the big headline of 1.5 million steel, which also grabs people's attention. So that in combination with this all new spectator mode, which makes the tourney as a whole is way more presentable, I thought kind of was a nice little community event in that sense. Brought a lot of people together, like not only the competitive scene, but also maybe people just, you know, dipping their feet in for the first time. Not only playing, but also just watching it. So yeah, I think it did that pretty well, I would say.
Okay. Yeah, for sure. What about you, Daddylaw? Was there something else that hasn't been mentioned that you think the tournament did well with?
Just in general, just it showcased how the game looks, like how, like you were saying there, a stigma of, you know, top level players being sweaty tryhards and all this here shit. But it sort of showcased that everyone's able to play like that. Everyone's able to do it. You know, there's no difference between things. And in general, like the spectator mode and the tournament, it showcased the game beautifully. Like the camera views and everything, and the way the spectators were able to sort of flow from one situation to another, properly showcase how a tournament actually looks in a professional sort of, well, not 100% professional, because it's not a fully fleshed out. It's work in progress, but it showcased the game amazingly. Like from a spectator view, if I was new to the game and I was watching that, I'd want to pick the game up, sort of thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay. Yeah, for sure.
Also, may I add one thing about the whole competitive sweaty tryhards? Like, I'm sure Piers can agree. Like the competitive players in the tourney have literally shown nothing but sportsmanship towards us. There was no trash talk, no shady things going on, no banter, no bullshit, exactly. So that may be also like an entry barrier for a lot of people, because they're like, that's not why I play games, you know, they're all mean there. Definitely not the case. It's all about just good sportsmanship,
Yeah.
trying to improve at the game, and that's it.
Yeah, I think that's widely the case. I'm in for glory with a lot of these top players. I've scrimmed with them on their team. I've scrimmed against them, and there's really no serious trash talk. I mean, Setmix will talk some trash because he's Setmix, and it's more banter than anything else. It's pretty rare when the trash talk is actually done in like a malicious, with a malicious intent.
Absolutely.
And it's kind of frustrating for us as a competitive community, because that's what people see. And then there are some people like who stream or who have YouTube videos who just harp on the competitive communities, like this guy trash talked or whatever. It's like, yes, it happens, but it's very rarely the goal to actually just be a jerk. I mean, when you have streamers like Ice Guys who has a clip of saying Clutchmeister's gatekeeping the competitive community, and people can't get in because of him.
Say really quickly that clip was fucking hilarious.
It was.
That shit was so good.
It was. Oh man.
Fucking gatekeepers, man.
Yeah.
Fucking dude.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. It's crazy. Like, it's just not accurate. But when you have these big streamers who people know say something like that, then it's just going to be a mindset that just sticks with people. And it's annoying because the competitive scene has been very small, and we're wanting people to join, and we're hoping spectator mode is encouraging people to continue to play in tournaments, which is what we're seeing. But now we're getting that, we need to try and eliminate the stigma that everybody in the competitive community is jerks and everything like that. It's just a bad look and a huge misconception. Okay, so then let's see. Let's talk about what they did well. Daddylaw, can you talk to me a little bit about what you thought the tournament didn't do well?
Well, the only thing that I feel wasn't done very well were, like I said earlier, some decisions in the background and sticking to their own rules, I guess. It was the only issue that I personally had. Obviously, the age thing, but I honestly not really that affected by it. But my only issue with it is the fact that it's a UB-sponsored tournament. UB being an 18-plus game, and the fact that an actual studio is sponsoring their game, not real money, obviously in-game currency, to sort of hype up and increase the participation and viewership of a tournament. Mm-hmm. You sort of should have the feeling of responsibility where you need to enforce those rules consistently and constantly.
Yeah.
There was a situation where certain individuals were found to have not met the set of standards or rules that you had to be within to actually go into the tournament.
Right.
That person was, chucked out, but then that person was a big member of a team. They couldn't find a member. They were then given 10 minutes and so on. There was just a lot of sort of, no, we'll give them another chance sort of thing, rather than just sticking to the rules. You broke it, gone, move on, sort of thing, to keep it flowing. And we were sort of left sitting for about 2 hours or some shit, I think.
Yeah.
After that.
Yeah, that's a long time.
Bar that, the rest was perfectly fine. Some issues with some overlays being very popular.
Yeah.
Or something. But bar that, it was pretty good. That's
okay.
the issue I had.
Okay. Yeah, the people getting beamed from the tournament and giving so little time to try and find somebody. Yeah, that's definitely, that can take very little time, but when it takes 2 hours for you guys, like, you're just waiting until you can play a game like that, I think that's the biggest thing. It's not necessarily that this person got banned or whatever because they had broken a rule. I mean, we can talk more about that later, but because it took so long, it just exacerbated the situation to where it shouldn't have taken 2 hours to resolve everything, and to wait to play that long. Macgeiler, same question to you. What in your opinion did the tournament not do well?
I can pretty much only add to what Piers already said. It did feel a little chaotic, and we felt a little lost at times, I think, just because of the long waiting times. Like, it was mostly Zilber who tried to take care of the bureaucracy, let's call it just that.
Sure.
And we were just sitting there and we were like trying to follow the action in the For Glory Discord, and like, okay, so wait, they were banned or they weren't, and then they have Smurfs, and they were still competing and beating all the teams before us, and now they're allowed to still compete against us, but with a sub. And wait, no, now they're not even allowed a sub, and now they have 5 minutes to find one.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said as well, it just took so much time, and it made the whole thing just seem so. I hope I don't sound too harsh when I say amateurish, but literally just make a decision. Put your foot down and just call it there. Don't delay the tourney any longer, and don't be the guy who can be played with in that sense, because it also discouraged us a little bit. It took our flow a little. So yeah, like outside of the little organizational stuff in the background, I can't really think of anything else that the tourney did wrong per se.
Mm-hmm.
But it kind of casts a shadow over the entire thing, like not only during but also after, I have the feeling.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that did have a big impact on. I mean, people just watching may not necessarily have seen it that much, because then there are other games besides your guys' to watch. So it may not have affected them as much. But if they're a part of For Glory, or they're part of anything behind the scenes, and they know what was happening, I mean, it does, like you said, you said it perfectly. It casts a huge shadow, like before or during the tournament and after. I mean, we're talking about it right now because it was a very significant setback that we had while watching the tournament, and it's unfortunate because we're trying to showcase what spectator mode can do, what For Honor looks like, and it's difficult to do that when you have when the tournament is being slowed down and decisions aren't being concise decisions aren't being made. It can dampen the viewers' desire to watch, because that's the biggest thing. Like we want people to play. We want competitive tournaments to be around. We want the prize pools and everything like that. But that's kind of on the backs of the people who watch. Because if it doesn't get if there isn't any interest in it from people watching, then I mean, people aren't going to compete nearly as much. Verb, I'll go to you and ask you the same question from the caster's perspective. You didn't play, but you were just the same a part of the stuff that happened. So what could the tournament have improved on?
For me, primarily, it's the whole angle of speed. If you go back and watch the VOD, from the EU one, me and Vid are very noticeably by the end fatigued and tired. So it ends up being the case of us being in a good place to start with, like, yeah, things are going well. And if you look at the end of the NA test, or the NA tournament on PC to the EU one on PC, that there is a very big stark difference in, like, hype play versus the EU one, where we're like, and we're going to see them go to the mid. They do the thing in the mid. So there is the time element definitely doesn't help the casting. I think I eventually just had to go at the end because I was that exhausted. I couldn't put out a good product.
Yeah.
So I asked for a sub instead, and poor Vivid powered through where he could. Setback, wonderful gentleman himself, came in to assist, and Raven tried to do what he could where he could.
Yeah.
So yeah, if the tournaments are more abridged and in a nice tight package, everything about it gets better. The pacing, the commentary, because you're not burning through that many resources. I mean, we're not in a position to where we can hire subs casters, which technically would help with longer tournaments, but in terms of time, gotta be concise to make sure that everything's good, unless I've got like the mother of all caffeine shots to inject directly into myself.
Right.
So it's like, yeah. The product suffers if it runs too long.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, and this was really only that really happened, if I remember correctly, in the EU PC tournament. The NA one seemed to go pretty well without a hitch, right? I don't remember. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you guys watched it or not, but I don't really remember too much.
I remember the NA tourney being like done with at around midnight my time,
mm-hmm.
And the EU tournament went on until like 4:30 in the morning. So yeah, you could say NA went a little more smoothly.
Yeah, and I think this is something we kind of touched on, but it's really the age dispute, like with a member from UDDA and then some members from Hotspot not necessarily meeting that goal. That was something that held things up. And personally, I understand wanting to adhere to the rules. Like if you're not a certain age, you can't play. I kind of Light Boogie had a good perspective on it. Is like I can't really check reliably what your age is. So if you're going to tell me that your age is this and you provide an ID card or something like that, I mean it can be photoshopped, it can be whatever. So I'm not going. If that's what you say, then that's what we're going to go with, because I can't reliably check that. And I think moving forward, that might not be the worst idea to adopt, just because you can't really reliably check on it. And that was such a big problem with the EU tournament, and especially in For Glory. People have known these particular players' ages, but then they were allowed to play, and then at the grand finals or the finals, they weren't allowed to play. So yeah, I think was what Daddylaw has said, like concise decision making, and what Macgeiler said: put your foot down, say this is what we're going to do, this is not what we're not going to do, and move on. So this will be the last question I wanted to talk about then is this something that we can see reliably continuing? And not necessarily, not just tournaments, I mean, but like Ubisoft, contributing steel to a tournament or something. Daddylaw, I'll start with you. Is this something that you see Ubisoft continuing with, supporting the competitive scene? Like, we had some snags, but it still went smoothly overall so far. Like, is this something that they'll see and like, yeah, we can keep doing this?
I definitely see it as something that they would probably keep on doing, not only just for developing the spectator mode itself, because obviously whenever they advance it at the next stage of beta or whatever it's in, they're going to want to test it out in the open air again. So there's obviously going to be another tournament coming. I can almost guarantee that. I don't know anything about it. I can't confirm there is, but I can almost guarantee it, just by the look of it. And if I was a member of the For Honor team, and I was looking at how the tournaments went, I'd say they were a massive success in terms of the spectator mode itself being showcased.
Yeah.
So I don't see why you wouldn't want to keep that going. And if you could build up a big enough competitive scene, or bolster the competitive scene more than what it currently is, from constantly doing things like that, whether it's monthly or every 3 months or so, doing a big tournament like that where multiple, like, you get your NA tourney, you get your EU tourney, where you can increase the amount of teams that are taking part, you could probably create a really good scene just along with those consistent every 3 months or once a month tournaments.
Mm-hmm.
People would want to keep on taking part, but at the same time, you got to think about the reward, because if it's just going to be steel every time, that's going to get bland really, really, really quick.
Right.
Because as appreciated as the steel reward is, like for Mac, are you going to spend that steel anytime soon? I know I'm not.
Well, I already did, but I still have loads left. So.
Yeah. Exactly. I've spent like maybe $5,000 on changing the look of items, I think.
Yeah, that's what I did.
It doesn't feel like it has a lot of value to it.
Yeah.
You've won, here's all the steel, but at the same time, what is that steel really worth compared to what you have in game? Like me, I've been in the game loads for ages. I have everything I want for the heroes that I play. I'm not really going to spend that steel on anything. Yeah. So definitely I can see them continue tournaments for sure, but the reward may be something that feels better, like a unique outfit. What was that outfit they've been giving out recently?
The English butter one. The one you get for...
exactly.
Yeah, the one you get at Twitch Drops.
Yeah, make like a unique or a limited time outfit for the tournament. You win the tournament, your team gets a specific outfit. Like, it's too much asking for their team logo on the outfit, but something along those lines, because you see people getting that in CSGO and stuff. They get their own stickers in CSGO.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
If they were to do small things like that, here, we'll put your team's emblem in the game for your team specifically because you won.
Yeah.
I mean, how about that team gets their own kind of jersey? I think Overwatch League does that as well.
Yeah.
Exactly. Their own kind of color pattern, and then the actual pattern they slap on there, maybe a logo. Who knows, even effects. But yeah, like, it would help identify when they're actually fighting. I think it would give each team a little bit of a character.
Yeah.
Give it a little bit more flair,
Yeah. And maybe like normal players could purchase them as well. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely what Pierce said, like, I'm pretty sure like Clutch, for example, already has an abundance of steel that he's not using. That's not going to be any initiative for him to compete. And also, like, outfits alone, I think, like, people are already taking the piss out of them. Like, oh, look, another battle outfit. And then if
don't make fun of that.
Like, imagine
they're important. Come on now.
Yeah, I'm just saying other people do. And now imagine if the notorious prize pool for a big tournament would be battle outfit. Like, we would have memes for days.
Right.
They unfortunately would probably have to make it a bit, like, they would have to make it stand out a little more than that. I'm not saying maybe an emote, that's shared across all characters, or an effect or something, but I don't know if an outfit would be enough. But it would definitely be a step upwards from Steel alone.
I will say, as a very quick point to that, though, as while the top end of players and the people who are hardcore in the scene may not care for Steel, my God, was that a really good incentive for the players who haven't played before.
Yeah.
I talked with multiple people. Like, I was going around chatting with people, getting feedback for the show, like, as I usually do. And so many of the newer teams and the newer players were like, yeah, we've always been tempted, but we've always procrastinated until we would, saw the Steel pricing. Like, we could buy a year's worth of champion status by placing, 4th or something. Mm-hmm. So, that is... It won't be everyone here, power users, don't care as much. But for the people who only have so much time to play, but have always been just on that precipice, that Steel's a massive kick over the edge.
Yeah,
in that regard.
Sure. Yeah, I think it could be you could very easily implement a combination of both, because I agree with Daddylaw in that the Steel is not necessarily the biggest motivator to play. I mean, not everybody's going to be like Crack and say, it doesn't matter if their Steel is there, if there's good competition in a tournament, I want to play in it. Not everybody's going to be like that, but I still think for people who don't necessarily care about the Steel or the monetary, but having something that immortalizes them in the game, having a jersey or having an emblem or something that's after the team that won. I think that's a huge motivator, not just for the top players, but for other players too, because this is their ostensible chance to make their mark on the For Honor game as competing in a tournament and placing whatever. I think it's a different kind of motivation. And I think that moving forward, something like that should be implemented to keep it fresh, because you're not always going to be able to do cash. I mean, everybody likes pizza money. I mean, nobody's going to turn that down, I think. But I for it to mean something more, especially with where For Honor is at right now, I think more people would be interested in something like an outfit or a symbol or something than a ton of Steel, or just cash.
What about a mask outfit that gave you a crown as the mask outfit effect? The Illustrious.
Oh, okay.
For example,
I could guarantee you that at very minimum, Clutch.
Yeah, well, Clutch will use it all the time.
Dick sledge his way through a tournament to get that effect. At the very minimum, UDA are gonna run riot to get that one. That would be perfect.
Yeah.
What about signatures? The entire team having some sort of cool choreography at the end.
Yeah, well, and League of Legends did that too. With all the Worlds players that won, they would get skins, and they would go to them and say, okay, what do you want your recall animation to be? And then the players would think of it and go into the animation studio or send them a video, and they'll do whatever they wanted to do. I mean, why couldn't you do that for signatures?
Way too big, though, I think. That's way too big. That'll be for, Hero Series 2 Electric Boogaloo levels. This is just for, community tournaments.
Yeah.
I think we're going a bit too far on that one.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that makes sense. Yeah. And I think with how the tournament format is there's an NA and EU, because spectator modes are on dedicated servers. If we can get enough competitive teams for this to fire off enough to where we have enough competition on both sides, that we could do our own worlds and just send people to Montreal, which we talked about this in my first podcast, Verb and I did, but sending them to our worlds, which is wherever the studio is, and play for something like that. The best NA teams, the best EU teams fight. I think that would be cool. Okay, so wanted to move on to testing grounds, but is there anything else you guys wanted to add about the Steel tournament that we haven't covered already before we move on?
Nope, I'm good.
No? Okay. So as we know, testing grounds is going on, and I do have a command for this if you guys want to look up the values and what has changed. If you do !TG, that should give you a link to the changes. Let's see, Macgeiler, I'll start with you then. The testing grounds itself, not necessarily the changes, is what I wanted to discuss. Are you in favor of an idea like this for the testing grounds?
Yes. Short answer. I'm definitely in favor of stuff like that, because in the past, UB kind of had the misfavor of the community about the changes they make and how fast they make them. So just handing them that little tidbit of information. Look here, these are changes that we think about maybe implementing, no matter how tiny, how minute, is I think a good way to go about it. I'm not going to talk about the actual implementation of testing ground just yet, because I think we're going to talk about that later.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, at first I was amazed, because I think this is a very good idea. Like in the client, no separate download needed. It's amazing. The only thing is that, I mean, literally everyone has access to this. Console, PC, Rep 0, Rep 400. And I mean, I'm not an expert in that regard, but how are you gonna determine what data is valuable and what isn't? Like, that's so much. Someone who's playing the game for the first. Oh, Verb's excited.
Actually, inside information on that one.
Are you gonna break NDA right now?
No.
Okay.
This is a good thing. No NDA. No NDA. So I specifically was able to talk with the developers as this was being talked about and whatnot, and they specifically said they are looking to comb through everyone's ideas. Okay, we understand the general sentiment, but they will be specifically looking for and headhunting feedback from the best of the characters they'll be testing, and looking for the more higher end stuff. They very much know the whole idea of the Reddit, quote unquote, the Reddit shit posting idea. They are very aware of that. So in that regard, yes, they are very much filtering out the wheat from the chaff.
Okay, that's very good to know. Yeah,
for sure.
That was about the only concern I had at first. Yeah. That it may be too ambitious when it comes to gathering data that way, and it may if there's that much data, then eventually the data won't be worth that much, because it's a muddy mess of just everything, instead of precise on the spot feedback, so to say.
Yeah, for sure. And I shared your concerns as well, because I think this is a great, testing grounds is a great idea, but whose feedback are they listening to? They're not vetting anybody going in. They're allowing everybody to play, which I think is right. Everybody should be able to have access to this. But who they listen to, whose feedback they listen to, is incredibly important, because you have a lot of people who don't necessarily know what they're talking about with the characters. There are people who still complain about Orochi light spam. We don't want to take those people's feedback too seriously. We want to move the game in a healthy direction. So it's nice to see that they're actually actively seeking out these people who have a lot of experience with the character and are good at the game and good at the feedback. Daddylaw, same question to you: do you think this is a good idea for Honor moving forward?
No, 100%. The idea of giving your community a say in how you're actually going to develop and move a hero forward in terms of him being adjusted and reworked.
Mm-hmm.
It's a brilliant idea. The idea of that is perfect, and that's exactly what the community's wanted for God knows how long. Ever since the game's been released, whenever certain changes have been made to heroes or the game in general, people will always want to say, and this is what we need. This was bad. This was good.
Yeah.
The only sort of issue I would have from it is the same thing that Max sort of said there, but Verb shut that down right away. He's like, yeah, no, it's grand. They're not going to listen to some fella who got it for free on Epic Store, being conquer and cried when he got beaten by an Aramusha,
right?
Sort of thing. But no, it's great. But another reason I like it is it gives you a very small bit of insight into how the developers actually view the heroes themselves, not just how you experience the hero, but they look at the hero and they'll make a change based off of how they feel it needs the advance, based off of your feedback. So you can actually tell if they're understanding what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
If they're actually taking what is being said in by higher end people in terms of experience with certain heroes, Centurion, Warlord, Gladiator. If they take in the feedback they get and they put up testing grounds again, you'll probably be able to tell whether or not they actually listen to the feedback properly from people who actually know what they're talking about, and if they took in any info from people that are just a bunch of shits with the IQ of a shoelace or some shit,
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so Verb, same question to you. Is the idea of the testing grounds good? Is this something that's good for the game moving forward?
Yes, like 100% yes, and especially the way they executed it as well was great, because another Ubisoft title, for example, Rainbow Six Siege, has a PTS, and it is used consistently, way more than For Honor ever has in the past until this point. But the problem is with their PTS is it's a normal PTS. You've got to download another client externally, go onto it, and actually play it. And there is a user retention problem there of actually, like, literally you like go like talk or go watch any YouTube video from any big Siege creator covering the PTS, and they will say, hey, get on the testing servers and play the bloody thing and actually see what it is. But you don't want people to get on and actually give their opinion and mass test this kind of thing. But with this being built into the client in For Honor, it's like, instead of like, oh, what's the new changes? It's like, oh, yada, 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 changes are in. It's like, oh, cool. What, it's on the PTS then. I have to go download it. I can't be asked. No, it's actually in the events players. Just go play it now, mate. What are you talking about? Like, being able to cut down that, like, level of effort required to actually play means that then all of a sudden you're going to have way more people going in and not only giving you the analytics to actually look at, but also the more of the general feeling alongside more people being able to actually play as well. Like, a lot of the top players may want to casually give it a go, but maybe their internet connections aren't too great, which means they won't be able to download another PTS constantly. So just being in the client, yeah, it's better for everyone. Like, apart from the whole issue of no customs, which we'll be getting to later, like, testing grounds right now, 10 out of 10.
Yeah, for sure. I'm also in favor of it. I think it's a great idea. Originally, and I still think I have these reservations, in that there aren't enough changes to necessarily warrant something like this. However, if this is something they're going to use to consistently push out changes from the minute to the extensive, I think this is a great idea to consistently have. And I agree with Verb's point that downloading a completely separate client, which we did have to do I think we had to do that for Marching Fire. But keeping it in the game means more people can just hop over and test whatever changes. It also brings up an interesting point that actually Setmix was talking about in For Glory, I think it was yesterday, and that if they're able to do this, then this could open up possibilities for being able to change heroes for specific, how they play for specific modes. So for different balancing, like balancing characters around a 1v1, around 2v2, around 4v4, because there are just some characters, like for example, that are just not good through any of the game modes, like Orochi, for example. I mean, he's supposed to be this 1v1 duelist specialist, and he's not. He can't really do much in 2s, he can't really do much in 4s. 1s is the place he does the most, but even then it's not as much. But then you have stuff like Warden, who is arguably the best character for 1v1, but is not really that good for 2s, not really that good for 4s. So if they can make this, then perhaps this opens the door for something like that, to have different balancing. Which I don't know. I think that would be a great way to move forward. Because in my opinion, the game should be balanced around force, because it feels like that's what the game was meant to be. It's meant to be this 4v4 capture points, team fights more than 1v1. So I think it could be good moving forward. So what else would we like to see from the testing grounds? Do we want to see do you want to test like changes for maps as well? Should this be open to like everything, or just small character changes? What should this be open for? Verb, I'll start with you.
Literally everything. Anything they even like mildly want to say, like, oh, we're kind of interested how this goes, just yeet it into the training grounds or testing grounds and give people a go with it. Just like, oh, we want to see if maybe this slight change to this map for this X benign reason. In you go. Mm-hmm. Just give it a go. Or like, we want to see what happens with this character. What if we try like maybe like changing how this move works? Let's see like what the response is. Throw it in. That's the nice thing with it being in client is, I don't know the back end of how it works, but they can get way quicker with these. Like, they could just do almost laissez-faire levels of testing. Like, hey guys, for the next like couple hours, we're going to be testing out a new format for like Centurion's Zone, where it does a bajillion damage for reasons. Just do it. Yeah. So being able to do that would be really, really good. So I overall, yeah, like the speed of it is going to be one of the biggest assets.
Okay.
In that regard.
Okay. Macgeiler, same question to you.
I completely agree with Verb. Like, you already have this great tool, and there's literally no reason to not let it be the wonderful chaos of whatever is about to be tested. Like, you want to test a map, yeah, have only that map in the Dominion rotation for a while in testing grounds only. You want to change even how game mode works, put that in there.
Yeah.
And if it is chaos, if it is a shit show, like, it doesn't matter. That's what it's for. That's exactly what it should be. And there's no reason to think about the repercussions. And maybe people aren't going to like it, or maybe this change isn't big enough, or whatever. No, you can literally just put it all in there. I completely agree with Verb in that regard.
Okay. Yeah, for sure. All-encompassing is definitely best for me. Daddylaw, what are your thoughts on what the testing ground should cover?
All I can do is reiterate and agree to everything they've said. Literally have no boundaries to what they test in it. Test everything and anything, whether it's a character model or animation change, all the way to an entire moveset change with brand new animations too.
Yeah.
Anything at all. Just if you have an idea and you're not sure how the community's going to react, fuck it in there.
Yeah.
Just throw it in. Go for it.
Okay.
Put new fashion in there for all I care.
Hey.
To see how
That's an idea.
You know, I'll spend some time in there.
Yeah.
Set to go.
Yeah. That's something I definitely agree with as well. What I'm curious about is how will the success of testing grounds in its first iteration be indicative of how much they'll use it in the future? Because I think Jeebus said this in chat a couple minutes ago, that it kind of depends on how much they use the testing grounds. If they use it consistently, then I could see them doing this, like small map changes, let's put it in there. Small character changes, let's put it in there. Is this something that you guys see them using consistently, or is it gonna really be contingent upon how well it does through these 2-something weeks that it's up?
I can see them using it consistently for sure. I just sort of hope that they, like, I don't know how likely this is, but I love the idea of them keeping it there. You know, if they just keep testing grounds there, and whenever they have a new thing they want to test, they swap that out for the new thing they want to put in, rather than taking it down for 2, 3, 4, 5 months and not being able to test anything. Why not keep it there so people can continuously go in, experience what this new thing may be, what it could be, what it's not going to be, and continue to do that, rather than, we'll have it up for only 12 days and then we'll take it away and we'll get data from that. Whereas if they keep it up for a long period of time, the amount of people that are going to be able to test it out, people that are coming back to the game, people that are new to the game, if they're able to keep it there and constantly just update what's in there, like say, for example, Warlord arguably has some of the smallest adjustments from the heroes that are getting changed up in the testing grounds. They could keep that there and say, okay, Warlord's clearly from the feedback the hero that's been given the least. Let's change him a little bit more and adjust him a little bit more. Then update him in the test grounds. And then do the same with Centurion. If people say, oh, this is getting rolled, update the tracking a little bit. Just continuously update and alter it as it's live, rather than taking it away for 3 months and then back for another 12 days and then 3 months away. I feel that's a very poor way of doing it, but if it's there for long periods of time, it's a much better way to handle the testing grounds for sure.
Yeah,
but it's definitely a great idea, and I can definitely see them using it overall for sure.
I could see a bit of a downside to it as well, because like we have to remember what these are for is literally just testing and gathering data, whatever. And if you just continuously have that playground open and you have a bunch of minute changes that swap around the testing conditions all the time, like they also have to be evaluated. That's also a lot of work. So like if you make that harder for them just by changing it up the entire time and having it up for grabs the entire time, I don't know how much that would complicate things. And it may be they have to actually limit themselves a little bit, just to give themselves like a little bit of leeway to actually evaluate the data they gathered, instead of, okay, so we had 2 days of this, but then we changed that about Warlord, so that's going to change the data we gathered since then a little bit, but then we also did that and this and this and this.
Yeah.
So I think they somehow are forced to have like a more controlled testing environment with a few changes in them, and then let that be it for a while, and then there's going to be like a next version with probably more changes in them, but just so that they can treat all the data they gather like in a vacuum, instead of having to keep all this chaos in mind.
Yeah. Okay. Verb, what about you? What are your thoughts?
Honestly, just plus one to literally everything. Like half of what I was going to say, Daddy said. Half the other bit, Macgeiler just said. So it's like, yeah, that's pretty much it, Chief.
Okay. Yeah. The thing that I envisioned was obviously the character changes, but also I think it would be cool if they would add changes that they would make to spectator mode to be in the testing grounds as well. Or maybe have like something specific to, like, if it's not public yet, specific to the people they've already given access to spectator mode for. But when it goes public, I think the testing grounds is a great place to test that. Like, we want to add this feature in. Like, we want to add a first iteration of a heat map, for example. Come test it out here. Something like that. I don't know how that would work logistically, to be fair. But I think it's a great place to test something like that, especially because of how big of an impact spectator mode has on the game, obviously the competitive community. I think it opens up a lot of possibilities, for sure. Okay,